This is 15 easy and actionable steps for you to buy your first rental property, and I'm gonna walk you through each one. I'm a real estate investor with 23 units in 5 different states around the country. My properties brought in a revenue of $272,000 last year. Step 1, answer the question why you want to invest. This will help you write out your goal for why you're actually investing. Plenty of people I speak to don't even know what they want to do with real estate. They just say they want to invest because they know it's a way to make money. I wanted to start investing for passive income so I could retire my parents and my future family. And if I didn't get clear on why I'm investing, I would get stuck on this next step. So pause this video right now and answer this on paper, even if you know it in your head. Step 2, what investing strategy will allow you to easily accomplish your goal of why you want to invest? Before you can answer that question though, you need to know the different investing strategies. So let me break them down. First, we have fix and flip. This is when you take a beaten down property and then sell it for more and make a profit. This is great if you are someone who has contracting experience or you know someone in your family who does. In my flipping company, we shoot to make about $45,000 profit per flip. If you do 3 flips per year, that's $135,000 salary. But it's very time consuming to stay on top of all the projects, and it's more active because you need to manage things and stay on top of the contractors and find the deals. And the worst part is you get taxed really high on this strategy, just as high as you would if you had a job. Second, we have wholesaling. Basically, your job here is to find good investments to sell to other investors. And so you act as the middleman between someone who needs to sell their house now and someone who wants to make money on it. This is really good if you don't have a job, so you have a lot of time and very little money, because it doesn't require a lot of money to get done. And so let's say you find a house in your neighborhood and the house looks vacant, so you call up the owner and they agree to want to sell you their house for $100,000. And then you find an investor who's willing to buy it for $110,000. It's a lot of calling that you have to do to get to this point, to get to the deal, a lot of time, but you can make $10,000 on that spread. Some people make more, some people make less. The con here is that sometimes this takes more time than flipping, but once you get the system down, you'll start having a lot of people coming to you. It'll be easier for you to get these deals. Lastly, we have my favorite, which is buy and hold. This is when you buy a property, rent it out, and hold it over the long term. If you're someone who want to have passive income over the long term, then that's the best route for you. The money you make over your costs every month is how you profit. The pro here is that this is definitely way more passive than a lot of other investing strategies because you do a lot of the work up front. Then there is some managing work, but usually you can use a property manager to make that more time effective. But you put a lot of money down on a property and it usually takes you about 8 to 10 years to recoup that capital, depending on what your return on investment is. So what you need to decide right now is which strategy is gonna help you achieve your goal. So pause the video and do that right now. And if you're someone who wants all these steps that I'm gonna outline in this entire video in a nice checklist, check the link in my description for it. Step 3, what city will you actually invest in using data? Now you know the strategy, you need to pick what city is going to be the best place for you to implement that strategy. Not every city is good for each strategy. For example, finding a cash flowing rental property in Austin, Texas while putting 20% down is nearly impossible. Same with New York, San Francisco, LA, any of these really expensive places. Those cities though, you can usually do a better job flipping because the prices of those houses go up really high. And so there's usually a little bit better of a margin there. But vice versa, there's tons of smaller cities like Muncie, Indiana, where you could find cheap homes that you can rent out and make money over the mortgage, but it can be harder to flip there because home values don't go really high. So I have multiple detailed videos on how to actually do this entire location research process, but here's the quick breakdown. First, come up with a list of cities that you're gonna do research on. You could use ChatGPT, blog posts, whatever you find on the internet, other investors that you know. 2, put them all on a spreadsheet. 3, find data for each city. Got crime rates, unemployment rates, population growth, home price, price to rent ratio, property tax rates, and landlord friendly scores. Then compare the data for each city. And step 5, pick the best one aligned with your goals. One important thing to note here is some data points are better if you're gonna do flipping versus other data points are better if you're going to do rental properties. So rental property data points that are better, home price to rent ratio, landlord friendliness score, and property tax rate. Whereas data points that are better for flipping are crime, population growth, unemployment rate. And so this process takes a couple of hours to do. It's what I do for my mentoring students when they join the program. I'll do all the research for them. Step 4 is set up your company or LLC. So this step is actually optional. You don't need an LLC to buy rental property. Step 5 is to set up your bank accounts and credit cards. This step is gonna vary depending on how you did step 4. For bank accounts, I'm gonna recommend BaseLane. It's what I use for my bank account for my rental properties. It's banking basically designed for real estate investors. You can collect rent, you can apply for mortgages. It's built for you to scale. They have a high yield savings account that you can use for rental reserves. And you can also organize your finances expenses by creating property-specific accounts. That's good if you have an LLC or a sole proprietorship. If you don't have an LLC or a sole proprietorship, then I would use Ally Bank. That's what I started when I was out, and I also use Capital One 360. Then for credit cards, if you have business credit cards, I recommend a few. You have the Chase Ink Unlimited card, or you can do the Amex Business Plus card. And the reason why you'll want these is because at the end of the year, you are going to have to do taxes. And you're gonna have to keep track of all your costs. And it's way easier to have a separate credit card for each individual LLC that you have, so you can keep track of what all these expenses are, so your accountant can automatically put them in different categories and make your taxes a lot easier at the end of the year. Step 6 is to get pre-approved for a mortgage. A pre-approval is a letter from a bank or a lender saying that you can afford a house in this area up to a certain price. I've had pre-approvals for $1 million+ properties in New York. I've had pre-approvals for $300,000 properties in Austin. Now there's typically gonna be 3 different types of mortgages that you're gonna get as a beginner for a rental property. First is an FHA loan. This is 3.5% down. You need a 580 credit score, but you need to live in the property for a year. Well, after that year, you move out and you can rent out the house. This can be great if you live near the properties that you're going to invest. Second option, conventional mortgage. Now, some people are gonna use a 3%, 5%, 10 or 15% down mortgage, conventional, and that would mean that you have to live in the property. And for those 2 loans, you also need your debt to income ratio to be lower, and they want it to be somewhere around 40%, including the house payment. And then the third option that you might get is a DSCR loan. This is great because as long as you have a high 600s credit score, you can qualify for a house based on the rental income. And so basically, if you want to live there, you can use FHA or conventional with a lower down payment. And if you want to make it an investment property and you have good income and low debt, you're going to use a conventional investment property mortgage. And if not, then you probably use a DSCR loan, because the DSCR loan has a slightly higher interest rate. I left a link to a broker down low who can help you find a loan. If that's something you're interested in, check it in my description. Step 7 is to find an investor-friendly real estate agent. You're going to need someone to send you properties and someone to go look at them with. We don't want just any agent though. We want someone who's investor-friendly. This is someone who understands the numbers behind investing, who might be an investor themselves or worked with other investor clients, and responds quickly and is reliable, because time is of the essence. I usually have to call 6 to 7 agents in a new market before I get someone to pick up. To find investor-friendly agents, start by searching Zillow's best agents, replace the city with the city you're planning on investing in. Then look for ones that mention property management, foreclosure, short sales, landlord. These are terms that people put in their profile to attract other investors. Give them a call, tell them your strategy, show them the pre-approval, and say, hey, I'm ready to start looking at some houses. Please set up a listing for me. They're gonna send you properties every single time a new property within your criteria comes up. And you're gonna take a look at these properties every day, because that's step 8. I recommend you spend at least 30 minutes a day looking at properties if this is something you're seriously trying to do. And when you're looking for them, a quick way to determine if they're gonna be a good deal is to use the 1.25% rule. This means if a property can rent for 1.25% of the house price every month, then it will probably be a good investment. And if you're saying to me that this is impossible to find, then the problem is you probably picked the wrong city. Once you have a list of properties that meet that criteria, then you need to move on to step 9. Analyze them and make offers. The 1.25% rule is a great way to remove a lot of bad properties that aren't going to work immediately and save you tons of time. But eventually, that is not the proper way to look to see if a property is going to make you money. You need to look at the formula for how to actually determine if a property is a good deal. That is income minus expenses equals your profit. Income is usually just your rent. So you can use something like Rentometer and looking at other properties on the market currently to see what the properties rent for. Lastly, you have your expenses. And so your expenses are your mortgage, your taxes, insurance, property management fees, utilities that you might have to pay, HOA fees, PMI or MIP if you put less than 20% down, and savings you put to the side for a rainy day. I usually save about 15 to 25%. And so we're looking for properties that make us at least $150 per month in cash flow. We also want properties that have at least an 8% return on investment. The formula for cash on cash return on investment is all the money you make from a rental property in year 1 divided by the total cost to buy the property. Let's break that down a little bit. The total money you make in year 1 is usually your monthly cash flow times 12. Then the cost to buy it is usually your down payment plus your closing costs plus any rehab you needed to do to get the property rent ready. And so this metric, cash on cash ROI, is great to help you compare different types of investments. The reason why we pick 8% as a number is because 8% is usually what the return of the stock market is every single year. And so if my cash flow that I'm making from the rental property is equal to what I would make on the stock market, then to me, the rental property is going to make you way more money in and out, because there's multiple ways to make money in the rental property. We're just measuring the cash flow. So now, once you find a property that works, you're going to call the agent, view the property, and make an offer. Step 10 is get an inspector to inspect the property. Once you got an offer accepted, the process is going to be a little bit different in each state, but usually there's a period of sometimes between a week to 2 weeks to get an inspector to show up in the property and look at everything that's wrong. You could ask your real estate agent for an inspector that they recommend. One thing to note here is that they're going to give you a report, and the report is going to seem like the world is ending and everything is wrong with this property. I promise you that in most scenarios, most things on the report are not important for you to deal with. You need to look for the things that are most important for you to deal with. And so call up the inspector and say, what do I need to make this property rent ready? That will give you a better idea of what things are going to need to be fixed in order to work on this property. Now, sometimes you can take some of those things and negotiate them with the seller to get a discount, or you could even back out sometimes depending on what the situation is. Now, step 11 is to get a contractor to walk through it. Only needed if you need to get work done on the property. Your goal is typically to get 3 contractors out there to look at the property and come up with quotes on what needs to get done. You typically want 3 at least to compare against to see which ones are trying to just rip you off and which ones are better. Step 12 then is to get insurance on the property. No bank is going to let you buy the house without insurance because they want to make sure that their ass is covered just like yours. And so if you want to learn more about getting insurance on a property, I made a guide about that. You can get it with the link in the description. Step 13, get a property manager or prepare to manage yourself. This step is crucial because the day you close on a property, you're going to start losing money if it's vacant, and you need to get it rented ASAP. And you need someone that you can trust, especially if you're out of state, to get this thing rented. The truth is that property managers will almost never care about your property as much as you will, because at the end of the day, the property is only worth a couple $100s to them, but to you, it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But they can save you a lot of time and headaches by making sure that you're not the one doing all the work every single time, and you don't have to be your therapist for your tenants, and instead, you can go into focusing on the portfolio and how you're going to acquire your next asset. Things that they should be doing is be able to check on work when it's getting done, guide you into how to set up utilities, and they should help you manage the property while it's rented, get you tenants, collect rent, do background checks, and sometimes even pay some of the bills for you. If you want a free video watching me call a property management company, I have it in my free school group. You can use the link in the description to get that. Step 14 is to close on a property. This is the day that the property actually becomes yours. And now this is where the real work starts. Get the property rented as soon as possible. So otherwise now you're gonna have a bill on your hands and you're not gonna want that. And step 15 is to get an accountant. This is often an underlooked one, but I can tell you from firsthand experience that getting an accountant is 100% worth it. One time I tried to do my taxes myself. I think it was the first year I had my first rental property. So I was gonna pay the government $3,000. But then I was like, I think I'm doing this wrong. So I gave the information to my parents' accountant. My parents were like, just try him. So I tried it, and then he had that I was making $7,000 in a refund back from the government. That's a $10,000 difference, and I only paid $500 for it. If you like this video, please share it with someone so I can reach new people like you. And the links for anything I mentioned in the video are referenced down below.